Hi, I'm Carl Franklin. In this episode of the .NET Show, I'm doing a deep dive into the .NET MAUI MediaElement control. The MediaElement control provides a simple way to play audio and video files. It supports a wide range of media formats, including MP3, WAV, OGG, MP4, and many others. It can also be used to play media from URLs or streams. In addition to basic playback features, MediaElement has a number of other features, such as the ability to control playback speed and adjust the volume. Developers can also customize the control's appearance and behavior to suit their specific needs. Overall, the MediaElement control is a powerful and flexible tool for adding multimedia capabilities to your cross-platform applications built using MAUI. Now, not only am I going to show you how to use MediaElement in a MAUI XAML app, but we're also going to use it in a MAUI Blazor app. And that's all coming right up on the .NET Show. Okay, just so you know, all of the code I'm going to show you is here in my MAUI MediaElement repo on GitHub. All the instructions, all the code, screenshots, all of that, it's right here. All right, so first things first, we're going to create a .NET MAUI app to use MediaElement. And it's going to be called MAUI XAML MediaElement. I'm going to pick .NET 7.0 for the framework, and we're off to the races. So to use MediaElement, we're going to have to add a Nuget package. It's part of the .NET MAUI community toolkit. So we're going to open the package manager console and install community toolkit.maui.mediaelement. Now we get this README text file. We have to put this line right in here in our MauiProgram.cs. So let's open that up. And we're getting these squiggles because it knows we've installed this package, but we haven't added it to our app yet. So we're going to do that right here on line 12. So now to use it, let's go to MainPage.xaml. And I'm going to add the namespace for it right at the top here. The namespace is toolkit. And we have to reference this schema here, MAUI toolkit. Now we're going to replace everything in the vertical stack layout here with this markup. We're going to create a media element, and we've named it here so we can access it in the code behind, setting the should autoplay property to true, setting the aspect property to aspect fill. That means it'll take up 100% of the space of its parent container. And then we specify a source, which is this big buck bunny MP4 that you see in all sorts of demos for media players. Because it's open source. If you want to know more about it, check out the repo. Now we got to clean up the code behind here. We don't need any of this on counter clicked. We don't need int count. So now I'm going to run the application in Windows. Of course, I have a huge monitor, so I got to bring it in. Now you see these controls here. You can scrub, pause, restart, set the volume. All right, I'll spare you the rest of it. So next, I'm going to show you how to play a media file from an embedded resource. We can take small MP3 files, for example, and add them to our resources folder in the raw subfolder, and then we can play them out of there. So I'm going to add a small MP3 file that you can download from the repo, or you can just put whatever MP3 file you want in there. So I'll just drag it and drop it right in there. Now here's the cool part. If you look at the properties, they're already set correctly. The build action is set to MAUI asset. All right, let's go back to the main page. And right up here on line 12, we'll add this. So I have a button, the text is play audio, and a button handler, which I'll put in there in a minute. And we have another media element for audio, which is going to operate independently of the video media element. I've hidden it by setting is visible to false, and I've set the source to embed://audio MP3. So let's add that code behind. Right here at line 9, we'll add our button clicked handler, and I'm just going to play the media element. All right, here we go. So here's our Buck Bunny. And now if I say play audio, hey, this is really cool, isn't it? You wish. Hey, get your own show. All right, so notice they play independently of each other. Now, if I wanted to load that file dynamically at runtime, I could do this. Set the source to mediasource.fromResource and then pass the name of the file. That way, I could take the source property out of the definition and load it dynamically. Hey, this is really cool, isn't it? You wish. Hey, get your own show. And there you go. But I'll set this back to the way it was. All right, next I'm going to show you how to add the ability to control the volume of the video with your own UI by binding a slider control to a volume property. So let's go back to MainPage.xaml, and right down here I'm going to add this. We have a horizontal stack layout. Inside I have a label with the text as volume, and I have a slider where I have a minimum and maximum, a margin, so it bumps over by 10 units, and the value is bound to a property volume on the binding context, which I haven't set yet, and then I have a width. So in main page, I'm setting the binding context to this, my page, because I've got this property here, volume, and this is what I'm going to bind to. In my getter, I have to check for nulls on the video media element. If it's not null, I'm going to return the volume. Otherwise, I'm going to return 1. That's the default. Because the video media element is null when the app starts up. In the setter, now even though there's a value, the media element might be null, and the volume might be the same as the value that we're passing in. So I've got this Boolean set flag. I'm also setting the volume of the media element and the audio element to the same volume at the same time. This is one of the benefits of doing your own UI. You don't have to have individual volume controls for every media element on the page. So if the value is set flag is true, we're calling on property change so we can notify the UI that this property volume has changed. All right, let's run it again. And here it is. Let me adjust the volume. All right, now I'm going to bring it down very low and play this audio. Hey, this is really cool, isn't it? You wish. Get your own show. So you can see that the volume slider is controlling the volume for both of these media elements. So let's do a little bit more UI here and talk about handling events. So I'm going to add volume and position indicators to the main UI. So that'll show us what the current volume is and also what the position and the duration of the video is in our own UI. Now, because we're going to rely on timespans and we need to format those timespans for UI, the easiest way to do that is with an extension method. So I'm going to add a new class called extensions. And here it is. So it's a static class, and I have one extension method for a timespan, and it's called toShortTimeString. So I'm going to return a string from a timespan that is formatted in a very efficient way. So first of all, we're only dealing with time, hours, minutes, and seconds. If my hours are greater than 0, that means there is an hour value. I'm going to start ret, the return value, with the hours in a colon. So if it's 1 hour, I'm going to get 1 colon. If it's 10 hours, I'm going to get 10 colon. So if the total minutes is greater than 0, that means I got minutes, right? If it's under a minute, there's no minutes. So if the hours is 0 at this point, I'm adding the minutes without a leading 0, right? It could be 59, it could be 38, it could be 2, whatever. But if I do have hours, like if it's 1 hour, I got 1 colon, so therefore I want the minutes to have a leading 0. That's why I'm formatting it with D2. Now if I have seconds, I'm adding those seconds with a leading 0. Otherwise, I'm just adding 00. All right, that's enough of this. Let's go make a change to MainPage.xaml. So to the right of the slider, I'm adding a label with the volume value, and I'm using the string format with 2 decimal places. Now to the right of that, I've got another label with a little bit of a margin, and it just says position. And then I'm binding to a position property, which we're going to add right now. So I've added the string property position. It's read-only. And in the getter, I'm checking to see that video media element is not null, getting the position and the duration, and then I'm going to use that extension method to return the position, a slash, and then the duration. Now let's go down here, and you'll see we have this new event handler for position changed. Now up in the XAML, we're going to add this line. Loaded equals video media element loaded. And this is important if I'm going to handle any events. So I at least need a loaded event, and loaded happens after the media element itself has loaded and it's ready to go. Otherwise, it's going to be null. Back in the code, in my video media element loaded event, I'm hooking the position changed event on video media element, and this is my handler. And here I'm simply telling the UI that my position property has changed. This right here. And so that means this label will update. All right, let's run it again. And so you can see right down here, as I change the volume, that value changes. And the position readout changes as we go through the video. Now let's talk about some other events we can handle. We're going to handle the StateChanged event. So I'm going to replace my code, and in the loaded event, not only am I going to handle position changed, but state changed. So the state is reflected in the current state property, and when that changes, I'm telling the UI that a property I have called state has changed. So if I press F12, I'll go there. All I'm doing here is getting the name of this state, and it's an enum called MediaElement state. And if I press F12 here, here it is. I've got none, opening, buffering, playing, paused, stopped, and failed. So those strings are literally what's going to be returned from my state string property. Now all we have to do is go back to the markup and add another couple labels. One to say state in bold, and another bound to that state string. All right, let's check it out. All right, so right out of the gate, the state is set to playing. If I pause it, now the state is paused. And if I scroll to the end, it's stopped. Now you don't have to just report this. You can use this to change a graphic, that indicates to the user the current state, if it's playing, paused, or stopped. You can see what they did here, right? They have this button to play and pause, and that's based on the state. And you can do the same in your app. Okay, there are a couple other events I want to talk about. 3 media-related events that you can handle, not so much for reporting to the user, but for you to act on in your code. You got MediaOpened, which occurs when the media stream has been validated and opened. You got MediaEnded, which happens when the media element finishes playing its media. And MediaFailed, that happens when there's an error associated with the media source. So we're going to create a media status string property and update it from these 3 event handlers. So first of all, let's add the labels here. And again, handling this media status event isn't really for the UI, but it's for you in your code. This is just a demo, okay? Now we'll go to MainPage, and in my loaded event, I'm wiring up MediaOpened, MediaEnded, and MediaFailed. And all I'm doing here is setting a property media status to a string. But of course, you can do whatever you want in these events. So let's look at media status. So this is a string property with a backing field, and my getter just returns that backing field. But notice that I have a private setter because I need to change it, and I want this code to be the only thing that can change it, not from the outside. From the outside, it looks like read only. Okay, let's run that. Okay, so you can see the status is MediaOpened because that's the last event. And if I scroll to the end, we'll just watch this ending. It's kind of funny. All right, you can see that the state is stopped and the status is MediaEnded. And the way that you could demo MediaFailed is by dynamically setting the source property to a URL string that doesn't exist. All right, coming up now, we're going to talk about using MediaElement in a MAUI Blazor app. Now, if you're thinking that you can add MAUI XAML components to a MAUI Blazor page or component, stop thinking. You can't. At least not as of this writing. But what you can do is add a XAML page containing MediaElement or other XAML controls to a MAUI Blazor app and navigate to that page and back. So I don't know if you knew this, but you can have a combination of Blazor pages and XAML pages in the same app. And the easiest way to do that is to start with a .NET MAUI Blazor app. Now, I got this idea from this video.
How can I scan barcodes in my Blazor hybrid application, or how can I use maps in my .NET?
All right, so Gerald Versluis is a genius, and he talks in this video that I've linked in the repo about combining .NET MAUI XAML and .NET MAUI Blazor in the same app. And he actually shows 3 ways to do it. I'm using his second method, which is just to navigate to a XAML page from Blazor and back. So we're going to create a new .NET MAUI Blazor app. This one will be called MAUI Blazor MediaElement, .NET 7. Now, just as before, we have to open the Package Manager console. We have to install this package, communitytoolkit.maui.mediaelement. Now, you might be thinking, well, can't I just, in my Blazor code behind, create a new MediaElement object that doesn't have any UI and just use MP3 files, just use it without UI? Well, the answer is no, you can't, because it has to be initialized from a window, and that's a XAML window. So right now, you can't do that. But if you go back and look at episode 27 of the .NET show, I show you how you can play audio in MAUI using a specialized audio control for MAUI Blazor. Okay, just as before, we're going to add this to our MAUI program. There's a few more things in the Blazor version. That's okay. Right here on line 13, we're going to add use MAUI Community Toolkit MediaElement. Just as before, we're going to add the extensions class. I'm going to add the audio file to my resources raw folder. There it is. And I'm going to create a special XAML file that has all of the content that we used in the MAUI XAML app, but just as a page. And it's going to be called MediaPage.xaml. MainPage.xaml. Now it's pretty much the same page as we did in the MAUI XAML MediaElement project, but there's a couple changes. The class name, that has changed. I added a go back button, so rather than just have this play audio button here, I created a new horizontal stack layout, and I have a go back button with a handler, as well as the play audio button with a handler. Now I also did a quick fix for these labels to set text color to black. I found that if I didn't do that, they didn't show up. So there's more efficient ways to do this, but for this demo, that works fine. Now I'm going to add MediaPage.xaml, my code behind file. And there's a couple differences here too. The namespace and the class name have changed. And I also have the go back button handler, which stops playing the video media element and calls pop modal async, which goes back. Now, in order for us to use navigation, we have to change MainPage to a navigation page. And we do that in app XAML CS. Instead of setting MainPage to a new main page, we set MainPage to a new navigation page of a new main page. And this just adds the navigation features that we're going to need. Now, how do we navigate? Well, we need a button. You need some sort of UI interaction. So let's hijack the counter page here. And right here, after we increment the counter, I'm going to say app.current.mainpage.navigation push modal async to a new media page. So this is going to be modal. Modals take the place of what's on the screen. You push them to display them, and then you use navigation pop modal async to go back. Let's see what it looks like. Now we have this purple bar at the top. Well, I'm going to show you how to get rid of that. Go to MainPage.xaml, and right here at the top, we're going to say navigation page.hasNavigationBar equals false. See, that showed up because main page is now a navigation page. So I don't want a navigation bar at the top. Now let's try it again. That's better. Now if we go to counter and increment it, here's our Big Buck Bunny page. And everything works just like it did before. I'll play audio.
Hey, this is really cool, isn't it? You wish.
Hey, get your own show. And when I want to go back, now I'm back in Blazor land. So, what did we learn today? Well, we looked at the MediaElement control in the .NET MAUI application. We learned how to play video and audio files from a URL and also from embedded resource files. We learned how to set the source dynamically at runtime from a URL or a local resource file name. We learned how to adjust the volume using the slider control. We learned that we can't directly add XAML controls to a Blazor page or component, but we can combine Blazor and XAML pages in the same MAUI app. We learned how to navigate to a XAML page from a Blazor UI interaction. And we learned that Gerald Versluis is a badass. Hey, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Please visit blazortrain.com and the .NETshow.com for more great content.